Lizra sat alone in the barracks room assigned to her, her home away from her ship. It was moderately decorated with personal keepsakes and books. A few of her various awards and certificates stood on an antique wooden shelf next to her bed. Her own questioning had concluded a few hours after the last meeting with Human and Commander Alibri. She wasn't given much of an opportunity to speak and was mainly reprimanded for her actions. She had acted against the recommendation of an extant, and even though she outranked Zate, it was incredibly rare for someone to disregard their opinions. She received a written sanction along with a loss of promotion points. Their reasoning being that if Human truly was working for the Corps, the consequences could have been disastrous. They scanned him upon arrival, but weren't able to fully analyze it until after the meetings. Once they finished, her superiors realized that if he had wanted to, he could have caused irreparable damage to the base and everyone inside. So she was punished for what could have happened. Letting out a long sigh, Lizra picked up her interface pad and saw a message telling her to report to Ensign Marketh at once. She donned her garrison uniform and left for the ensign's office, wondering if Human had already departed for some other system. He finally got what he wanted, nobody telling him what to do, and free from any responsibilities. She just wished she had the chance to tell him goodbye before he departed. She opened the door to the office and found Marketh perched atop his desk above her. "I'm sorry things ended up the way they did, Captain, but you have to understand if things hadn't gone exactly as they did, many lives could have been lost because of your actions. I stand by my decisions. You may not see it the same way that I do, but if it weren't for Zate, then it would have gone over much better," Lizra reasoned. "Perhaps, however, your job as an officer is to make difficult decisions. I see that is what you did now. There's no denying that we are better off because you refused Zate's suggestion. Thank you, Ensign. Moving on, there is always work left to do. We are dispatching your team to the Intar system. You will meet up with Ensign Kurth for a follow-on mission." "So soon? We just got back?" Lizra complained. "I wish that I could give you a longer leave here. However, things have changed. Knowing that there are more humans still present in the galaxy, and with less benevolent intentions than our recent guest, we have much to do. Upon arrival, Ensign Kurth will fill you in on your task. You are to gather your crew and leave at once. I do not wish to work with Zate going forward. I am requesting that they be reassigned." "Not possible. We are already in short supply of competent extents." "Then I'm recommending her for promotion, effective immediately." "Captain, you cannot recommend them for promotion merely to avoid working with them. This is far too early in their service timeline anyway. I will be denying it. Since everyone seems to think they did an excellent job with my report, I'd say they've earned it. I will still be putting in the paperwork." "Very well. Even if it goes through against my recommendation, they will still accompany you on this mission. You are dismissed, Captain." Marketh waved his paw to dismiss her and went back to his work. Lizra left the room and contacted Argall, informing him that he was needed as soon as possible. She gathered a few items from her room and made her way out to the spaceport to prepare for departure. Human POV. "Systems seem good. Thanks for getting that manual on how to operate this thing." Human was sitting in the cockpit of his newly acquired ship, starting it up for the first time. "Have you inspected the trigger parameters for that self-destruct device?" "Indeed, no hidden or remote triggers. I can safely say that it won't just detonate when we leave the system." "Any chance we can get it deactivated once we're out of here?" Human asked as the engine started up, the ancient striker trembling all around them. Tic-Tac was placed in the co-pilot seat, various wires sprouting out of him and into the ship's out-of-place modernized controls. "Not without tearing the cockpit apart and reconstructing it. It should not be an issue." "We'll just have to live with it, ready to get going?" Human asked excitedly. "Where to, Captain?" Tic-Tac asked, assigning Human the title. "Don't start with that," Human grinned. "Set us out for the nearest developed system. This thing could use some upgrades." "I've already started drafting up improvements to the slip drive to increase its speed exponentially. I may be restricted from their military systems, but the public networks still have nearly limitless amounts of information. As unwelcoming as our hosts were, they had the decency to provide us with enough of their currency to be self-sufficient for some time. Things just keep getting better and better for us then," Human stated, As the ancient striker lifted itself off the ground, its old engines roared louder than anything else in the spaceport, drawing the gaze of everyone on the ground as they lifted off and into the sky. The blocky transport shook and rattled as they attempted to break free of Aluris's gravity, sounding like it would break apart at any second. Once they were out and among the stars, the ship's protests died down and the combustion engines cut off, their speed remaining constant as they slowly traversed the void. "Inputting coordinates, prepare for slipspace activation," Tic-Tac warned. A second later, Human was forced against the back of his seat at the sudden increase in acceleration, the dampeners unable to completely negate the shift in inertia. "So, how long until we arrive?" 3 days. I'm bringing us to a planet called Intar, a mixed-species colony world. They have massive industrial centers, so we should be able to acquire hardware at a low cost. We also need to stock up on entangled network particles when we arrive. Should I put you under for the journey?" "Yeah, go ahead. Wake me if there's any problems." Human instructed, and then, like a switch being pressed, he was asleep. Human never dreamt when Tic-Tac forced him to sleep. It was like blinking once, and then you were awake, but there was the knowledge that time had passed. He opened his eyes and looked out of the cockpit. A large red planet, the red land masses broken apart by long yellow streaks that spiderwebbed across its surface, branching out in all directions. Along the streaks were the marks of civilization, but ended a short distance from their edges. Thin cities followed along the river's contours and lined the entire canyon network. "Welcome back to the world of the waking. I've gone ahead and taken the liberty to contact a mechanic on the planet's surface. We'll be reaching the atmosphere momentarily. I'm bringing us in on a shallow vector to burn less fuel. Brace yourself." They burned through the atmosphere and came down along the edges of the widest river. The urbanization on either bank only stretched for a couple miles out from the water's edge and gave way to a thick red jungle with trees stretching into the sky, higher than any of the skyscrapers that dotted the cities. Once they were landed in a sparse shipyard, the duo descended from the exit ramp to see a tall, slender creature waving at them from across the yard. He was tall and incredibly thin, walking with cybernetics that allowed him to survive the gravity of this planet. The metal exoskeleton sat just above his nearly pitch-black and featureless skin. A face with too many eyes to count peered over at them. When he spoke, it sounded like a series of connected whispers, easily gliding from one word to the next. "You must be the ones who reached out to me about some ship work. Can't say I've seen anything quite like you, though." "What world do you hail from?" the alien asked, the sound seeming to come from him without any discernible mouth. "I wasn't actually born on a world, just passing through and hoping to get some work done," Human explained. "A nomad, I see. You types are always great company. I'm sure you've got plenty of stories from your travels." The mechanic pulled over a small cart filled with different tools and miscellaneous parts. A large, bulky interface with an abundance of wires sat on the top. "Not particularly. This is only the 4th world I've been to," Human replied, dodging the inquiry. "I got the plans that you sent me, however. I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to do. Slip drives are pretty fragile, and there isn't much left to improve. They've come about as far as they can. But I haven't had much time to really look the modifications over," he explained, nimbly typing away on the oversized keyboard attached to the car. "They weren't my plans. Here, this should be able to help you," Human said, removing Tic-Tac and placing him down next to the alien. "Greetings. I was the one who drafted the modifications. I can assist you with any questions or troubles you may have during the process." Tic-Tac reassured him. "Is that an autonomous computer? I don't feel comfortable working with that. Did anybody else see this before you came here? You do realize these are highly illegal if someone finds out." "He can pretend quite well. Don't worry about it. If anyone in power really wanted him gone, it would have already happened by now," Human declared and walked onto the ship, grabbing an interface pad that came with the ship. "I'm going to grab some things in town. How long do you think it'll be?" These don't even make sense," the mechanic said, going over the schematics on his cart. "Most of these modifications don't even seem possible." "Theoretically, they are, however. This may be the first time they will be implemented in an actual unit. I sourced the modifications from current research being done by teams across 20 systems and compiled them together myself. Tic-Tac, explained Human, cut back into the conversation. Anyway, how long? If these are possible, then days at the least. This'll be rather expensive as well, remarked the mechanic. That's fine. We've got nowhere else to be. I'll be around later if you need another hand, Human offered. I'll call my partner for this. If we can make it work, this'll be the advancement of the century. If we can keep these once we're done, I'll do it free of charge, offered the alien. That will not be possible. Upon completion, the plans will automatically dissolve from your systems. We would rather keep this to ourselves. I hope you understand, Tic-Tac informed the mechanic. Fine, twice the price then, he countered. Whoa, I don't know how much we're already giving you, but... Human started. Acceptable. Bring in your partner so we can begin, answered the computer. I will take it from here. You may run your errands now, Tic-Tac said, addressing Human. All right then. Ping me if there's any problems, he said, walking away from the port and into the town. Other than the occasional odd look, Human had no issues as he made his way around town. Using the interface that was left to him, he purchased some items for the ship, along with some sets of tools to allow him to complete any projects that he may have in the future. After the third day, the mechanic finished the modifications and gave Human a rundown on all the changes. We updated the physical engines as well to more modern standards, but we couldn't do anything about how loud they are. You may receive some complaints about that from some authorities. A shame if you ask me, a beauty like this should be preserved, he said, admiring the old striker. And with the slip drive modifications, trips that would have taken weeks before could, if it works properly, should now only be a day or less. Never in my time here did I ever expect to do a project quite like this. I have to thank you for the opportunity. Of course, I'm glad you were able to get it all working right. If that'll be all, I think we'll be on our way now, Human said, extending his hand to the mechanic. What is that? He asked, looking down at his outstretched hand, confused. Oh, I was just thanking you. Right, no problem, the alien said, putting his hand forward but not touching Human's, unsure what the gesture meant. Okay then, ready to go, buddy? Human asked, as he reached down and picked up Tic-Tac. Affirmative. The pair boarded the craft and found their place behind the controls and started it up once more. What's next on the itinerary? Plot a course for the Prime System, third planet. There's something I need to check there. We are returning to the old Illyrian world. Are you sure that is wise? It is in the middle ring, which is currently disputed space. We could run into some trouble. It's a dead system. The only reason anyone was there last time was because they were instructed to go there. I need to confirm something. Understood. Plotting our route now. They pulled away from the crimson planet below and activated the experimental drive. It hummed to life much more furiously than before. A high-pitched whine shook the hull of the ship as it attempted to engage. Can the dampeners handle the new upgrades? You had those changed too, right? Potentially, it's best if you hang on tight. And, as he finished the sentence, Human lurched back in his seat and blacked out. He came to later checking the timestamp in the corner of his visor. 2 days had passed since he was last conscious. Is that going to happen every time we make a jump now? Unfortunately, though, I would say the saved time is worth it. I could have woken you up sooner, but it was not necessary. I take it we're here then? Yes, what was it that you wished to confirm? Bring us to the wreckage of the precursor. It should still be here in orbit around Prime H197. I need to see it. I assure you they are gone. There is nothing left to see. Bring us to it. Human instructed stubbornly, refusing to back down. Very well. After a few more minutes, they arrived at the last known location of the precursor. Outside the cockpit, debris was coming into view all around them. They navigated the wreckage of smaller ships, heading towards the epicenter of the wreckage. A few minutes later, they reached the center of the remains. Visible in front of them were the large, shattered pieces of a once massive dreadnought. Large chunks of the ancient ship drifted through space, showing no signs of life or any recent activity. As I stated, there was no possible way for any survivors to escape. Without any working ships or FTL technology, anybody that managed to survive would have died not long after the precursor's destruction. I detect no signs of life outside. I I just had to be sure. The way they talked back on Aluris, it just made me doubt myself. Thank you. We can move on now. I don't want to dwell on this anymore. Human sighed, filled with relief that his suspicions were false. Where should I bring... Tic-Tac started, but then paused for a moment. We just received a transmission. Only the UF knows the network key of this ship. I thought we told them not to contact us again. What could they possibly want this time? Decrypting it now, it is a video communication, displaying it on your visor now. Tic-Tac finished, a window popping up in the center of Human's vision. It showed the recording of a security camera aboard the Scav, dated minutes ago. Before it played, he heard the robotic voice of Zate ring in his ears. Human, by the time you view this transmission, we will be deceased.